My wife's sister falsely accused me of getting her pregnant. My life was destroyed overnight. Years later, she came back dying and begged me to listen. Bang, bang, bang. That sound could wake the dead, or someone who'd been pretending to be one for the past 3 years. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked over the half-empty whiskey bottle beside the bed. My old dog, Rusty, perked up at my feet, ears twitching, letting out a low growl. He didn't bark anymore, not after what happened in Tucson. Me neither, come to think of it. The knock came again, desperate this time. It wasn't just someone asking for directions or trying to sell me a Bible. It was the kind of knock you make when you're running from something, or towards something. I reached for the bat behind the door and tiptoed toward the front window. The snow outside had thickened to a curtain, covering everything in a soft hush. The yard, the old truck under the tarp, the worn welcome mat that had long stopped welcoming anyone. But the figure on the porch? That wasn't soft. That was chaos in a soaking wet coat. I squinted through the frosted glass, and my stomach plummeted. Lena, my ex-wife. She looked older, thinner, soaked to the bone, and absolutely wrecked. Her hands were shaking, one clutching her coat closed, the other still mid-knock. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. For 3 years, I'd vanished. Left no trace. No address, no phone number, no social media. I scrubbed myself from the map. Changed my last name. Burned the photos. Because what they did to me wasn't just betrayal. It was character assassination delivered with fists, tears, and a complete lack of faith. And now she was back, banging on my door in the middle of a snowstorm. It took me a full minute to unlock the door. She looked up, eyes meeting mine like she couldn't believe I was real. "Mark," she said, voice cracking. "Please, just let me in." I didn't move. The door hung halfway open, cold air slicing between us. "You shouldn't be here," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine either. "I know," she whispered. "But I need to talk to you. Please." Rusty let out a soft huff beside me like even he knew this was a bad idea. Against every instinct, I stepped aside. The warmth hit her hard. She stumbled in like a broken kite cut loose from a storm. Her eyes darted around the small living room. Books piled in corners with stove glowing, a patched-up recliner. No photos. No past. "You look different," she said. "You look the same," I replied, and she winced. She sat on the edge of the couch like it might disappear beneath her. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the old clock above the mantel. Then she looked at me, eyes red-rimmed, haunted. "Chloe lied." I didn't respond. "She lied, Mark. About the pregnancy. About you." "I know." That stopped her cold. "You, what?" I knew the minute it happened. "You think I'd touch your sister?" My voice cracked harder than I wanted. "But none of you gave me the chance to say a damn word." Her face crumbled. I believed her. "We all did." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Yeah, I noticed." She flinched like I'd hit her. "We were scared," she whispered. "No, Lena. You were angry. There's a difference." "I'm sorry." "Too late." She wiped her nose on her sleeve, looking so much smaller than I remembered. "She told us you pressured her. That you threatened her if she said anything." I didn't want to believe it, but it was easier to believe that than ask your husband of 5 years if it was true. I cut in. She stared down at her hands. I turned away and walked to the stove, grabbing a log. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold. She watched me in silence. Then she said the words that kicked me straight in the chest. "She has a son." I froze. "She named him Marcus," she added, eyes on me. "And he's not yours." "Never was. But she told us he was because she was afraid. Of her boyfriend. Of our parents. I don't know." "She destroyed my life," I said, turning back to her. "And you helped her." "I know." Her voice was barely audible. "She ruined everything. My business. My name. My home. Your brothers beat me half to death. And no one ever called to ask if I was okay." Tears slid down her face. "I didn't know what else to do. After you left. I wanted to find you. I tried. You wanted to feel better. That's not the same thing." She stood slowly. "I deserve that. But I'm not here for forgiveness." "Then why?" She swallowed. "Because Chloe's dying." My stomach clenched. "She's got cancer. It's bad. She doesn't have long. And she says she needs to see you. She needs to tell you the truth herself." I leaned against the counter, knees weak. "She wants to clear your name, Mark." I stared at her for a long time. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, everything I thought I'd buried started to surface. And suddenly, I had a choice to make. Do I go back? I didn't sleep that night. Lena passed out on the couch wrapped in the old flannel blanket Rusty usually claimed. She didn't even make it 10 minutes after I gave her some tea. I guess exhaustion does that when it finally catches up. But I sat in the chair, staring at the flames in the stove until dawn, replaying everything she said. Every word. Every memory. And then I remembered the last thing she told me before she left me bleeding outside my own garage. "You're disgusting," she'd said, right after she slapped me, right before her brother Jake grabbed my collar. And now she wanted me to come back? Clear my name. That's what she said. As if there was even a name left to clear. The truth? I'd stopped dreaming about revenge or redemption a long time ago. I stopped checking social media. I never even looked up the family after I vanished. I figured they buried me in the past like they wanted to. And now they wanted me to come dig myself out? Rusty padded over and dropped his head on my knee. Even he looked unsure, like he was silently voting against all of this. The sun came up behind the trees, gold slicing through pine branches. And still, I didn't move. Because there was another layer to all this. If Chloe was really dying, did that mean this wasn't just a stunt? Not some manipulative attempt to draw me back in? Could it be real? She woke around 7 a.m., eyes swollen, mascara streaked like war paint. "I'm heading back to town," she said, her voice rough from sleep. "Chloe's in a hospice center in Flagstaff. I told her I'd try to find you. I didn't think I'd actually." She looked around the cabin like it was a dream. "I didn't expect you to let me in." "You found me," I said quietly. "You did what you came to do." She nodded. "If you want to come, you know where we are." She hesitated at the door. "You don't have to forgive her. Or me. But if it were me lying in that bed, I'd want to fix what I could." She stepped outside into the cold and was gone. I didn't move for another hour. Then I did something I hadn't done since I disappeared. I opened my laptop. Logged into an old, dusty Gmail account I hadn't touched in forever. Thousands of unread messages. I scrolled through until I found her name. Subject, "Please, just answer once." Another. Subject, "Chloe's not okay." And another. Subject, "You have a right to know." They dated back over a year. She had been trying. I just never looked. I opened one. It had a picture. A kid. Brown curls. Big green eyes. Marcus. Not mine. But she named him after me anyway. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was tired of being erased. I pulled the tarp off my old GMC Sierra, scraped the windshield, and threw the duffel bag into the back seat. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what I wanted. But I was going. Because maybe, just maybe, some ghosts don't want to stay buried forever. And some need to be looked in the eye before they go. The road to Flagstaff felt like it belonged to another life. Familiar and foreign at the same time, like seeing your childhood home through a broken camera lens. I kept the radio off. Just me, the growl of the Sierra's engine, and the slow churn of thoughts I hadn't let myself touch in years. What do you even say to someone who detonated your life? How do you face a sister-in-law who weaponized a lie so effectively it wiped out your marriage, your reputation, and nearly your sanity? And what about Lena? She looked like she'd aged a decade overnight, like grief had been living rent-free behind her eyes. But grief didn't erase what she'd done. It didn't erase the fact that when I needed her most, when the whole world turned on me, she handed them the torch. And now she wanted me to show up and, what? Be a guest at her sister's deathbed confessional? I didn't even know what I wanted out of this. Closure? An apology? Justice? Revenge? None of those things could undo what I lost. I pulled into the hospice parking lot sometime past noon. It was a beige building nestled in the pines, the kind that tried to look soft and kind but couldn't quite mask the air of finality it carried. Lena was waiting near the entrance. She waved when she saw the truck but didn't smile. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," she said. I almost didn't. She didn't argue. Instead, she led me inside. The hallways were quiet, too clean, with that sterile scent of lemon and something unnameable underneath, like grief hiding behind disinfectant. Room 112. That's where Chloe was. Lena paused at the door. "She's lucid today. Mostly. But tired." I nodded and she pushed it open. Chloe looked small. Smaller than I remembered. Her once vibrant energy was dimmed, replaced with thinness and tubes and pale skin. But her eyes, those same sharp hazel eyes, found me the moment I stepped inside. And they widened. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. "Mark," she breathed. Her voice cracked like dry leaves. I stood at the foot of the bed, not moving closer. "Not yet." She looked at Lena, then back at me. "You came." I did. Silence stretched. Machines hummed. Then, with all the strength she could summon, she said it. I lied. My throat tightened. I wasn't pregnant. Not with your child. I made it up. I was scared. My boyfriend had left and I panicked. I told Mom first. Then Lena. Then it all snowballed. She looked away, ashamed. I didn't think it would get that far. I didn't think they'd hurt you. Or that you'd leave. You didn't think at all, I said, voice low. She nodded, tears spilling. I know. And when they attacked me, when your sister slapped me, when your brothers beat me into the dirt, you let them. Her mouth trembled. I thought if I stopped them, they'd know it was a lie. I thought I'd lose everything. You still might. She cried openly then. No sobs, no drama, just quiet tears leaking onto the pillow. I ruined your life. Yeah, I said blunt. You did. Lena moved toward the bed, placing a hand on Chloe's shoulder. Why now? I asked finally. Why tell the truth now? Chloe looked at me, her voice barely a whisper. Because dying with that lie feels worse than dying. I didn't speak. Couldn't. There were no words for this kind of wreckage. Only a heavy, burning silence. And the question that hung between all three of us. Now what? I didn't stay long. 10 minutes, maybe 15. Just long enough to hear the confession and watch her cry. Just long enough to realize that even though she was dying, I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel much of anything. That was the scariest part. Lena followed me out into the hallway, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in pieces. She meant it, you know, she said. She's not making excuses. Doesn't change what she did. No. But maybe it changes what you carry. I stopped walking and turned to face her. You think if I just let it go, it'll free me? That's not how this works, Lena. Her face crumpled. I'm trying. Try harder. She looked like she wanted to say something else, maybe to fight back, maybe to apologize again, but she didn't. She just nodded and stepped aside as I walked past her. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't breathe in that building anymore. I found myself parked outside a gas station 10 miles out of town, hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to earth. That's where the rage finally found me. I punched the dashboard, screamed into the empty cab of my truck, and then just sat there, teeth clenched, throat burning. All those years alone. All those nights I'd wondered what I did wrong. Questioned if I had done something, if maybe I blacked it out or said something or flirted without realizing. It had gotten that bad. They made me doubt my own mind. And now? Now I had the truth. But instead of relief, all I felt was a new kind of grief. Because there was no fixing any of it. That night, I booked a room at a cheap roadside motel. The kind with yellowed curtains and vending machines that only took quarters. I laid on the stiff mattress staring at the ceiling tiles, my old phone clutched in my hand. I hadn't called anyone from the old life since I left. But now for some reason I wanted to hear one voice. Just one. So I scrolled until I found the contact. Uncle Denny. He'd been the only one who ever doubted Chloe's story. Quietly, of course. Didn't speak up. But I remembered his eyes that night, uncertain. Sad. I hit call. 2 rings. Then, hello. Uncle Denny. Itsy. Mark. Silence. Then, my God. Where the hell have you been, son? Off the grid. A pause. Then he asked, did they find you? Lena? Yeah. She did. Another pause. What do you need from me? And just like that, the dam cracked. Tell me what happened after I left. Uncle Denny didn't hold back. He told me everything, how after I disappeared, Chloe doubled down on the lie. How Lena shut down, quit her job for a while, and moved back in with her parents. How the family never spoke about me again. Like I died. But I always knew, he said. Or at least, I never believed it completely. It didn't add up. You were a lot of things, Mark. But reckless like that? No. Then why didn't you say anything? I tried. Got shut down. Told to mind my own business. And I did. I'm not proud of that. He sighed and I could hear the clink of glass, probably pouring a drink. Family closes ranks even when they're wrong. Especially when they're wrong. Sounds about right. He asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was. Then we sat in silence until he finally said, if you ever need a place to land. I got a spare room. You're not alone, kid. I thanked him. Meant it. But I didn't believe it yet. 2 days later, I walked into the diner where Lena used to work. Same spot, same teal booths, same smell of burnt coffee and fried bacon. It hadn't changed a bit. I slid into a booth in the back and waited. She showed up 20 minutes later wearing the same expression she had at the hospice, heavy, uncertain, almost brittle. I wasn't sure you'd show, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I almost didn't. The waitress came and we ordered like we were strangers. Then Lena took a breath. Chloe asked me to give you this. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. I hesitated before taking it. Inside was a photo. Me, Chloe, Lena, taken years ago at a 4th of July barbecue. I was smiling, arm around Lena, Chloe leaning in beside us, grinning like the devil in denim shorts. On the back, scrawled in shaky handwriting, I lied. I'm sorry. I hope someday that matters. I stared at it for a long time. Then, you know this doesn't change anything, right? I do, she whispered. But I still had to give it to you. We didn't talk much after that. Just sat there, drinking lukewarm coffee in silence. And somewhere between the bottom of the mug and the crackle of the diner's old jukebox, it hit me. I wasn't the same man who left. But maybe that was the point. That night, I drove past Lena's parents' house. The same one where they'd screamed at me, judged me, kicked me down. The porch light was on. Inside, I saw Chloe's brothers, Jake and Aaron, watching TV like nothing ever happened. I pulled over across the street and just watched. After a few minutes, I stepped out, walked to the sidewalk, and dropped a manila envelope in the mailbox. Inside was a copy of Chloe's confession, signed and dated. No note. No threat. Just the truth. I didn't need them to believe it. I just needed them to live with it. It took less than 12 hours. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. Blocked numbers. Unknown callers. Voicemails I didn't bother listening to. I didn't need to. I knew exactly who it was. They'd read the letter. Chloe's brothers. Her parents. Maybe even Lena again, caught between her guilt and their fury. I sat on the motel balcony, cigarette in hand, watching the sunrise cut through the haze like a blade. I hadn't smoked in years. Picked it up again 2 days ago. Regret tastes like ash. At 7:13 a.m. someone pounded on my motel door. I didn't flinch. Just stubbed out the cigarette and opened it. Jake stood there, same stupid square jaw, same temper simmering under his skin. What the hell is this? He barked, holding up the envelope like it was a live grenade. Confession, I said. You know, that thing you never asked for. You trying to humiliate us? Drag our name through the mud? I laughed. Couldn't help it. You did that all by yourselves, buddy. He took a step forward. I didn't move. But this time, I wasn't the guy bleeding on the garage floor. This time, I wasn't alone or afraid. You laid hands on me over a lie. You let your sister get away with destroying a man's life because it was easier than admitting she messed up. You don't get to waltz back in and pretend. I'm not pretending anything, I snapped. I'm just done carrying the shame you handed me. He didn't know what to do with that. His mouth opened. Closed. Then he stormed off. I watched him leave and realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Later that day, Lena texted. She's asking for you. Says it might be soon. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked into town. Sat at a small bar with creaky stools and old blues playing low on the speakers. Ordered a bourbon and thought about Chloe. About what justice looked like when nothing could be undone. Would I go back to that room? Hold her hand while she drifted off? Would I even want to? Or would that make me just as weak as the people who stood by and let it happen? That night, I dreamed of fire. Not vengeance, just cleansing. The kind that burns away rots so something new can grow. By morning, I had a decision to make. And no matter what I chose, somebody was going to hurt. I didn't tell anyone I was coming back. Just got in the truck and drove. When I pulled up to the hospice that morning, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. That strange, heavy stillness where even the birds don't bother to sing. Chloe's room looked smaller this time. Dimmer. She was curled beneath the blankets, her face gaunt, lips cracked, eyes half-lidded. Lena sat beside her, pale and quiet, like a statue mourning before the loss even finished happening. When I stepped in, Chloe stirred. Barely. Just enough to open her eyes. She blinked once. Then again. And something flickered there, recognition? Relief? I didn't think you'd come, she rasped. I didn't think I would either. Lena rose and slipped out of the room without a word. Just us now. You look different, she murmured. You look the same, I said, and this time I meant it, not her face, but the ache behind it. The guilt. The weight. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. I won't ask for forgiveness, she said. I don't deserve it. I let the silence sit. Then, no. You don't. Her eyes filled. But I am sorry. Not just for what I did, but for what I stole. From you. From Lena. From that version of our lives that could have been real. You destroyed me. I know. You took everything. My name. My life. My peace. She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. I'm ready to go, she whispered. But I couldn't leave without saying it. For a long time, I didn't move. Then, finally, I stepped forward. Sat in the chair by her bed. I didn't take her hand. But I didn't leave either. We sat in silence for almost an hour. She fell asleep midway through. Shallow breaths. Skin translucent like paper. When the nurse came in to check her pulse, I stood and nodded. I didn't stay to watch her die. I didn't need to. She was already gone in every way that mattered. I walked out into the cold morning light and felt something I hadn't in years. Nothing. And then, beneath that, relief. 3 days passed before Lena called. She's gone, she said. Her voice was even, but I could hear the storm behind it. A storm I knew well, one that didn't show up as thunder or rain, but in quiet rooms and unfinished thoughts. I didn't say anything. She asked for you at the end, Lena added. She kept whispering your name. I waited a beat. I was already there, I said. She was quiet for a moment, then, thank you. That was it? No, please. No rewrites of the past. Just two broken people trying to make sense of the mess one lie had caused. That night, I opened the box I hadn't touched in 3 years. It sat in the back of the closet, under tools and winter gear. Inside were things I didn't want but couldn't bring myself to throw away. My wedding ring. Old photos of Lena and me back when things felt simple before the storm. And letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to people who never read them. 1 to Chloe. 3 to Lena. 1 to my dad, who died before I ever got to tell him the truth. They were raw. Unfiltered. Written in those first months when I was holed up in the cabin, furious and lost and trying to claw my way back to sanity. I burned them all. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need them anymore. They weren't me now. They were echoes. The next morning, Lena showed up at my motel door. She looked tired. But not like before. This was a different kind of tired, like she'd finally stopped holding her breath. I wanted to give you this, she said, holding out a small notebook. It was Chloe's journal. She started writing it the week after you left, Lena said. Said it helped her feel less empty. You don't have to read it. But it's yours if you want it. I took it. Not for her. Not even for Chloe. But for me. That afternoon, I drove up to the old garage I used to own, the one they forced me to shut down. It was still there. Run down. Overgrown. But standing. And for the first time since I lost everything, I thought, maybe it's time to rebuild. Not for revenge. Not to prove anything. But because I could. Because I was still here. And that was something. A week after the funeral, I found myself sitting on the porch of the cabin again. Same chipped mug of coffee. Same cold wind brushing through the pines. Different man. Chloe's journal sat unopened on the table next to me. I hadn't touched it yet. Maybe I never would. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't need more reasons to feel the things I'd already buried and grieved. Sometimes closure isn't a moment. It's the decision to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't have bandaged you. Lena sent one more text. I'm leaving town. Going north. Just need some space. I don't expect anything, but I wanted you to know. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because some words are too heavy to fit inside a text box. And some silences are their own kind of peace. A month later, I started rebuilding the shop. I bought new tools. Sanded down the walls. Scraped years of dust and shame off the floor. No big signs. No grand reopening. Just me. And the work. And you know what? It felt good. Not to forget, but to move. Sometimes I still get calls. From people who knew me before the firestorm. A cousin. An old customer. Even Uncle Denny. They ask how I'm doing. I say I'm fine. Because for once, it's true. The last thing Chloe wrote in that journal? I read it on a rainy Tuesday when the power flickered and the wind howled like it remembered everything I'd been through. It was just one line, scribbled messy in the corner of the back page. If you're reading this, I hope you didn't let me be the end of you. And I hadn't. I didn't. I looked out at the pine trees, coffee warm in my hands. No fanfare. No applause. Just a quiet kind of freedom. And that was enough.